This is Jack Cow, and he's a gym fanatic who spends a ton of time in the gym. Jack has been going to the gym ever since he can remember and is super strong. Jack's favorite exercise is bench press, and he trains it constantly. Some of Jack's gym bros encourage him to even join a weightlifting competition because he's just so strong. At first, Jack was really hesitant. I wasn't sure if he should, especially because he isn't as normal as everyone else, and he may even have an advantage. His friends constantly pestered him, saying, "Come on, Jack, you can do it. I mean, look how buff you are." Eventually, after a lot of encouragement from his gym bros, Jack signs up for a weightlifting competition for amateurs. The competition wasn't for a long time, and he had a long time to prepare, so he kept training hard. After a long time of training, the competition was just a week away, and Jack started to become nervous. He wasn't totally on board with doing this competition. He was a very shy guy, making this difficult. As time went on, the day the competition became closer, he became more and more nervous, but he knew he had to do this for the friends. Then it was the day of the competition. He was scared but prepared from his intense training. He left for the competition early in the morning, and there was a long line of super strong-looking cow competitors waiting to sign in. Then it was his turn to check in. The worker said, "Wow, you might be the strongest cow here today." Jack, being nervous, was only able to muster out a thanks. Then he was checked in, and he made his way to the waiting room, where he got to see all of his competitors. And once he saw them, he knew he shouldn't worry, and locked in. Then, roughly 20 minutes later, they began to call the names of the competitors up to the stand. Their first portion was bench, Jack's favorite. The first two competitors that were called up benched 350 pounds and 375 pounds. And that's when it hit Jack that this was going to be a cakewalk. The next two competitors benched 405 and 535 pounds. Then they called Jack's name. His heart dropped, and he was super nervous as he approached the bench. He looked out to the crowd and saw his gym bros cheering. As he sat on the bench, he told the judges what he was attempting: 1,000 pounds. They were super surprised, and the workers loaded up the weight for him. He lay down on the bench, grabbed the bar, and pushed with all his effort, and he got the weight up, leaving everyone surprised. He got a standing ovation after this crazy lift. The success made him feel great. Then the same thing happened. He waited, got ready, and blew all the competitors out of the water, squatting 1,500 pounds. Then again, for the deadlift portion, he deadlifted 3,000 pounds, destroying all the competitors. Everyone at the competition was in awe, and they had no idea that someone could be this strong.
After he was leaving with his medals, he was stopped by a group of people who were at the competition, and they asked him, "How did you do that? That was crazy. What are you, some kind of superhero? Are you using steroids?" Jack responded nervously, "That's just how I am. I've always been strong." The interrogators weren't having it, saying, "You liar. I bet you're on steroids." Jack began getting mad and shouted, "Enough. I'm not using steroids. I was just born this way." They nervously responded, saying, "Well, what do you mean by that?" Jack said, "I have the double muscle mass condition, where I gain double the normal amount of muscles." They responded confused, saying, "What's that?" Jack said, "It's a genetic mutation, which is a permanent change in the DNA sequence of an organism that occurs when there's a genetic change in the MSTN gene. This gene is supposed to supply myostatin through the muscle to grow them, but when this gene is mutated, it produces less or no myostatin at all, causing the muscles to grow far more." They responded, saying, "Oh, so that's why you look so buff." Jack says, "Exactly. The cows affected by this mutation look super muscular. This can change my behavior by potentially increasing susceptibility to stress, reduced heat tolerance, potential difficulties with movement due to excessive muscle mass, and altered feeding behaviors due to a reduced stomach capacity, though this doesn't stop me at all." The interrogator stated, but I want to know more." Jack said, "Yeah, I know all about this. Myostatin is responsible for limiting muscle growth. This means that a mutation or deficiency of myostatin leads to increased muscle mass. RNA acts as a blueprint for protein synthesis, dictating the production of blocks needed for muscles to grow and increase in size. This takes place in the nucleus of the cows with all the DNA. Complementary base pairing refers to the specific pairings of nitrogenous bases in the DNA. Adenine always pairs up with thymine, Inside a sign always pairs up with guanine. For example, cookies always go with milk and pencils always go with paper. The questionnaires ask, "Oh, I see. This really isn't your fault." Jack states, "Yeah, it really isn't my fault. The specific point mutation occurs when the MSTN gene is deleted from a chromosome, inhibiting the muscle's extra growth." The questioner said, "Oh man, I'm sorry for not believing you." Jack says, "Yeah, it is a real rare condition, and it is pretty cool that it gives me an advantage. It's no worries." Then all of Jack's gym bros come up and say, "Great job, Jack. You killed it. I knew you could do it." Jack says, "Yep, I think that this could be my new thing." Then, as time went on, Jack continued to compete in all sorts of competition while spreading awareness about his condition. In the end, Jack ended up being the world's strongest cow, dominating every single competition.